Recently I bought this 88 30p aquarium and today we're going to scape it. But before I can begin with the scaping, we need to add on the background. And the background that we are going to be using for the build is this white window film. And this is something that you should be able to get at just about any old hardware store, but I'm not going to show you the process of me building it and putting it on. Instead, I will put it on myself and then afterwards I'll come back to you. Background is now on, and don't mind that it's not perfect at the way the bottom. This will all be covered with substrate, so none of this will be visible. The only thing you'll be able to see is the white background here. So now the next thing that we need to do now is begin the substrate system. And the first thing that goes into the substrate system is this very coarse gravel. I'm going to use the coarse gravel in order to build height in the scape, because that is the most cost-effective way to do it. If you're using aqua soil or if you're using plant substrate, this will cost quite a bit if you aim to build the height in the scape. So using the gravel and then layering everything else on top is actually a more cost-effective way of doing it.
With the first part of the substrate system done, now we need to add the plant food, and this is the Tropica substrate,
which I'll be placing on top of the rocks here. And this is what's actually going to feed the plants, because there's no nutrients in the rocks here, and there's not going to be any nutrients in the sand layer that's going to be at the top. So it's important that the plants can still draw nutrients in order to grow and show the colors that I want them to. Okay, so substrate is now done, and it is all the way from the back to the front. Now we need to add the sand capping, and as mentioned, this will be sand. And the function that this will play is when I replant stems and take them across, the sand is actually what's going to keep them in place. So it's kind of going to lock in the plant, because it's going to seek into the small crevices. Sand is now also in place, and as you can see here with the entire substrate system, I have kind of made a slope towards the back, and this will increase the perception of depth that the scape will have. And now we can move on to the hardscape. With the scape, I was actually thinking going kind of simplistic. I have chosen these 3 rocks, which is going to be all the hardscape that is in the tank, because it's going to be very centered around a specific type of plants. So we have this one rock here, so that's going to be the main focal point, and then we're going to have the 2 supporting rocks. So I'll see what I can make out of these 3 things. So I've kind of played around with the rocks and kind of have arrived at this, which I actually really like. From the top it can look quite raw, as if this big rock here is actually taking up a lot of space, but if you shift to the sides, you'll also be able to see that the smaller rock here actually comes in and supports it really well. And this is the main focal point. But if you move to the other side as well, over here, you can actually see that there is a bit of an angle point coming through here. And I do also like that this supporting rock has its weight shifted forwards, coming into the kind of way of the light here, so that it actually casts a bit of shadows down here at the bottom. So overall, I'm actually quite pleased with this. Now is the time for planting.
Now for the plants, I am going for a full carpet in the foreground and a lot of reddish and also pink tones in the mid and background section. In the foreground, I will be placing Marsilea hirsuta and Liliopsis brasiliensis primarily. In the midground, I will be placing Alternanthera renicimini as well as Cryptocorone pink flamenco for kind of a reddish pink hue, and also Rotala indica bonsai and Crypt parva. For the background plants, I am also going for some of the more warmer tones, and I have here some Bacopa sasmani purple, and behind that some Ludwigia super red, which I am super excited to try out. I also have this big Cryptocorone that is way too big for the guppy tank, so I'm going to try and put it in here. I might also put some of the Rotala blood red in here, but I am not quite sure about that yet. Okay, so now we can move on to preparing the stems, and starting off with the Bacopa salzmani, I am going to take out the stone wool from the pot. Then I gently pull the stone wool apart in 2 pieces and will find the roots of the plants. From here I will gently pull at the plants, but still preserving the roots, but also making sure as little stone wool as possible will stick to the plants so they don't get into the water column. With the Ludwigia, however, it is as easy as opening the clip and we're ready to go. And now with the layout, I am actually starting from the back with planting the stems this time around. Usually you would actually start from the front and move your way back, but this time I wanted to see if anything noticeable would happen if I kind of turned the approach upside down. And with the Bacopa salzmani, I certainly got a very different idea in mind. I wanted to place it in the midground instead, but in front of the main stone, but also still behind the supporting stone, so the bottom of the stems would actually still be hidden. I think that this could give a really cool contrast with all the other plants that goes in. I also put some Bacopa salzmani purple here in the ridge between the two rocks. And a quick mist to make sure everything stays nice and moist. I also decided to use some of the Rotala blood red from the guppy tank because I wanted there to be a lot of reddish tones in the scape, and what better than the Rotala rotundifolia blood red. So I took some cuttings from my guppy tank and placed them behind the rock, placed most towards the back left corner. For the next plant, we are actually moving into the midground section, and this is the Alternanthera reneki mini. I am going to plant it quite densely in this open region right here. But before I can do that, I need to prepare the plants. And now it's time for the Rotala indica bonsai. I am also going to place this in one compact bundle, but in this area right here. we are planting the Cryptochrony Pink Flamingo. This is a plant I've seen so many people use, but actually not many who have kept it successfully. So I am actually expecting this one to melt, but hopefully it becomes vibrant. I mean, it does look like the plants in the in vitro cups are quite healthy. Now with this plant, I don't really actually have a plan going in. I'm just looking for some larger open areas where I think it will remain visible, because it's a plant that will stay relatively close to the substrate, so it can't go all the way in the back. And finally, we can move to the carpeting plants in the foreground. I am not going for a mixed carpet this time around, but rather I will actually keep them in separate clusters. With the Marsilea Hisuta, I want to keep it somewhat centered in the middle of the tank near the main hardscape. And the remainder of the carpet will consist of Liliapsis brasiliensis. I do think that the more subtle grassy textures of this plant will complement the others quite a lot and will actually help with tying everything together. And now at last, I am adding this big crypt in the back section. I don't know if it will actually even complement the scape yet, but I mean, it's worth a try. And that is all the planting done for this scape. I think that the foreground and the midground are looking very good, but the background needs to be trimmed and replanted a few times before it will have the finished look that I'm going for. But for now, we can move on to filling the tank with water, and then I can show you the filter and the lighting that I'm using. filter that I had initially planned on using for this setup is this Eheim Echo Pro 900. And instead of using the old tubing that came with the filter, I have decided to upgrade to these grey tubes from Chihiro's. These are a lot more flexible than the others and are, in my opinion, also much more visually appealing. And to pair with this, I am also using this ADA inflow as well as this outflow from Blau. But after attaching the hoses to the filter, priming it and turning it on, I wanted to adjust the flow rate because it was a tad too powerful. But in the process of this, I broke the lid and water flooded my apartment floor. Being the clever person I am, instead of fixing it in the bathroom where the floor can handle large volumes of water, I continued to try and fix the filter directly hooked into the aquarium. That also meant that I continued to flood the floor of my office another 3 times. So after admitting defeat with the filter, I went ahead and added this internal filter as a temporary solution while I awaited the other filter's arrival. Also, this would help me in seeding the tank with beneficial bacteria. A few days later, the new filter had arrived, and this is the Oase Filter Smart 60. It is meant for aquariums with a max size of 60 liters, so it is more than enough for the setup. But this filter only includes 10mm tubing, whereas the Chihiro's tubing I bought and the glass lily pipes are 12 to 16mm. So I unfortunately had to abandon the lily pipes and use what was already included in the filter, which still isn't bad at all. Okay, so the tank is now 3 weeks old roughly, and it's time for the first update. Firstly, the most obvious thing is the color of the water. I don't actually know why this has turned out all the yellowish. If any of you guys know, you're free to answer in the comments. But yeah, I think it could be because of decaying plant matter, but I'm not really 100% sure. Also, the filter has now been running for a while and it's doing okay. You can also see that I removed the big cryptochrony at the back corner because it was simply way too big and didn't work at all. Other than that, I have had issues with the Pacoba Tasmani purple. All of the stems melted away over time and I chose to just let it happen, and I'm glad I did because at the top of the stems are sprouting new small shoots. So I hope that I can trim these off and replant them, and then they will grow into what I initially visualized. But I am expecting a shipment of fish in the next coming days, so now I will do a big water change to get rid of the yellowish color, and then the temperature will have time to recover for when the fish arrive. And this is how it looks after the water change. The yellow color is now gone and it overall looks much better. The first inhabitant has also found its way into the ecosystem, and it is this Blue Dream Neocaridina, and it must have made its way in via the Rotala blood red. And speaking of the Rotala, after the crypt went away, a lot of space opened up in the far left corner, so I went ahead and took some more cuttings from the guppy tank and added them into the corner. And just to help the plants take off, I'm also adding some fertilizers. First, I'm adding this liquid carbon, which will help in fighting algae growth. Also, I'll be adding some of this premium fertilizer from Tropica, since this tank is also quite heavily planted and could do with some overall boost in nutrients. The fish have finally arrived and they're now temperature acclimating in their bags. I have opted for 10 of these stunning pearl danios and 8 diamond tetras. I think these fish are stunning, but in their own kind of neutral way. I am slowly going to add some water from the tank into the bags as well, so the fish can also get used to the water chemistry, and in that way they are not going to get shocked. But I'm gonna let them acclimate in peace, and then we can release them after. I also received these 2 Nerite snails, so they are the first thing to go into the tank. So with the snails now added in, it is time to add the fish. And to start with, I am going to add the diamond tetras. Diamond tetras has been caught, and now it's just time to add them in. I think these fish are actually quite elegant in the fact that they're not really very visually kind of vibrant, unless when they kind of flash in between when they come forward and they get that kind of diamondy flash to their scales. But I do think they're very elegant and they'll fit in nicely, and they have a good temperament as well. And now is the time for the pearl danios to come out. And I'm actually excited to see how they look once they're like fully settled in, because in the pictures where I bought them from, they were kind of white-ish with a strong purple accent as well. If I remember, I'll overlay a picture here. But so far I'm not really seeing that color in these, so I'm excited to see how they'll turn out in time. Okay, pearl danios going in. I think there should be about 10 or so in here. One already did go in the tank, you can see that there. So let's get all of his buddies to join him. So this tank was initially set up on the 21st of November, and the fish then arrived on the 17th of December, and today it is the 12th of February. Looking at the tank now that it's matured, I am so pleased with the outcome. I think it looks better than I had actually originally envisioned. The vision for the tank was I really wanted to have a lot of red nuances in the tank, and in order to bring out the reds and the pinks more, it was also necessary to have the greens. And I haven't actually seen any red foreground plants that are vibrant. I mean, you can get Helanthemum tenellum red, but they are still primarily green. But I'm really happy with the selection, and I'm happy with how everything has grown in. And the inhabitants have also settled in really well. And the keen-eyed viewer might realize that I actually have two LEDs now on top. I bought two of these Twin Star 20B3s for some other projects, but I'm yet to set them both up, so I had this one to spare. So the idea was that I wanted to see if I can bring out some more reds of the Rotala indica bonsais here, but that hasn't really happened yet. But yeah, we can go through all of the inhabitants quickly and the plants and see how they've grown. The elephants in the room is the Bacopa Tasmani purple. I never got it to take off. It never grew in, which I am quite sad about, because I do think it had some tremendous potential for the tank, but yeah, that did not happen. And in the background instead, the Ludwigia Palustri Super Red and the Rotala Blood Red has instead come forward a lot. And that I'm happy about. I was initially a bit concerned with the Ludwigia because it did look quite, what's the word? It looked brittle. It has recovered, it's showing its red colors a lot more now, and it is growing in the fashion that I kind of expected it to kind of loop around the rock, which is really nice. It still has some green edges, but they'll grow in with time, I think. So super promising. The Rotala is generally just a really lovely plant, and in this scape it really comes together, and I'm happy that the lighting is good enough so it can really help it kind of get its perfect color, especially without the CO2. The biggest surprise for me was actually the crypt pink flamingos. I actually expected these to melt, but not a single one of them has melted, and they're actually getting really nice pink leaves now, even without CO2. I have trimmed off some of the greener leaves as well, but they have recovered amazingly, and they are growing very nicely. And they are actually covered by the Alternanthera reneki mini in some places. But that's, I mean, they are still growing pink leaves underneath, and I will have to trim the Alternanthera soon. So yeah, then the pink flamingos underneath can hopefully come out a bit more and show their color. In terms of algae, I mean, there's a bit of green dust algae on the rocks, which is to be expected. I'm actually surprised that it looks this good, because the tank has never kind of encountered the diatom phase that you normally see. I mean, I have been on top with water changes, so that might be the cause.
But yeah, I'm surprised at just how good it has been. There's a tiny bit amount of hair algae, which might have come from the rotala from the other tank, which is prone to growing hair algae. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I'm surprised of how good it's grown in and how much it's developed. So that's amazing. Then we can talk about the inhabitants. I don't think I've lost a single fish in the tank. I mean, I have had a jumper of the pearl danios that jumped out, which I unfortunately lost. And with the diamond tetras, I have noticed the tiniest bit amount of fin nipping, but that was more in the transition phase. They are now good, I think. They are happy, they're tremendous, and I think they complement the scape really nicely. They're both very elegant fish, and I think if I do this with a first lighting, you'll then be much more able to see kind of the purplish pearlescence that the pearl danios gives off. And the nerite snails as well is doing their part in keeping the rocks clean. They are in good condition as well, and they've actually gone ahead and laid eggs on the glass and on the rock as well, which I'm actually not too happy about. But it means that they're thriving, so that's good. The eggs will never hatch because they only brackish water. So that is an issue, but you can just scrape them off with a glass scraper and it should be good. It is still a bit annoying to have them there, but yeah. I mean, I don't mind it that much. But overall, the tank is not completely done yet. I am still looking for some Neocaridina shrimp to put in here, because I do think, since I have black Cereostone, why not go ahead and add Neocaridinas? It buffers the alkalinity, which the Neos love. The plants don't seem to mind the alkalinity, but I want a shrimp that complements the fish, because the fish are quite neutral. I would say I want a shrimp that's neutral as well, and yeah, you'll have to see that for a future episode, but I'm looking for the perfect ones, but they're difficult to source. Let me just leave it at that. So yeah, overall, extremely happy with how the tank has developed. I did not expect it to grow in this good. Amazing plants, amazing fish. I think this is definitely one of my better scapes. I do also quickly want to say that the channel recently hit a big milestone. You are now able to support the channel by becoming a member. The membership info is listed in the description of the video, but if you do want to support the channel and like the content, feel free to become a member of the channel. Every single cent of the money that comes from memberships and donations and super chats will go back into the channel in one way or another. This could be in terms of equipment or more things directly related to content like this tank. So yeah, if you do want to see more, become a member. It's a good way to support the channel. Other than that, I don't think there's much to add. I'll leave you with some more cinematics of the tank, but thank you so much for watching this video. It was amazingly fun to build, and watching it grow in over the past few months have also been an amazing experience. Yeah, let me know in the comments how you think it looks, if there's anything that I could improve. I'm always open to suggestions, and also what you'd like to see next. See you next time.